Hi there. Let's talk products. So we're going to go to the store tab. We're going to come over to products. And I've got way more on here than you might normally have. But hovering over products, you're going to see that there's a bunch of areas here that we can pre-populate about a lot of information. Now, some of these need to be pre-populated. Some of these we're going to be able to populate while we're putting the product together. So kind of go through, but various ones that you may want to put in here. Brands is great if we're going to be doing like a main brand and a second label, third label kind of thing. Or you can also do brands along the lines of merchandise, tchotchkes, artwork, that kind of thing. Wine bottles, really important, especially if you have, not only for your 750s, but if you have any magnums, 3 liters, etc. And make sure that you populate the varietals, regions, and appellations as well. Just kind of helps with the overall flow of the information. If you have spirits or beer or sake, you can turn those on so that you can put the information in there for as well. And then we can get down into departments, and then POS categories is at the bottom. But when we click on products, I'm going to use the older view. I prefer the old view. It's a little more concise. I've tried the new one. And actually just a minute ago I tried this and I got kicked out. So I'm just going to stick with this view. But the other one, you're more than welcome to use it if it works for you. I just think it's a little disjointed. I've let them know my thoughts on it. But I think it takes a little too long to put the same thing together. I just like how concise this is. Keep in mind, again, whenever we're in any of these sections or we're going to search for something, though, that looking here under advanced, and this goes for products, this goes for club processing, this goes for a lot of areas, is that it goes by what's active. By default, active is going to be what's shown on the page. So if you don't see something there, either go to inactive or all products and then look for it. This happens a lot when we talk about inventory and people accidentally use deactivate. Something runs down to 0 and then it gets deactivated and the people freak out because like, oh my God, my product's gone. It's not gone, it's just inactivated. Okay, and they think it's deleted, but it really isn't. So that kind of thing. Also, if you're looking for certain things, types, when we talk about types, this is a great way of looking things up. Oh, where's that event ticket or whatnot? Especially if you have pages and pages and pages of products, then we need to narrow down that search. So just very important that you are going to make sure that these are active or that you're looking for an active product, okay? And again, as with most things in the system, big green button in the top right, we're going to click that to add a product. So let's go ahead and add one. Now, the first thing is this, though, the product type. Extremely important that you get this right each time for what you're trying to do. And in this case, you can see the main ones you're going to have are going to be wine, wine product, product bundle, and product. Now, you could have gift card, event tickets, even credits if you wanted to. But the main ones are going to be wine, wine product, and product. And then product bundle, I'm going to talk about in a second. So when we look at wine, ideally this is, well, just that. It's wine. It's the wine bottles. This is what we want to use this for because we see that the region, the wine type, vintage, especially appellation, all the stuff that's for wine is here. And we can go ahead and have these pre-populated so we can pick them in the drop-down. This will be here, appellation, okay, varietal. So we're going to want to populate all those versus what I'm going to get to in a second with brand, I can add it right here. Bottle size, I can add it right here, okay? So, but this is very important to know what do we want to use the product type for. Wine, obviously the wine bottle. Now, wine product, though, this is ideally something that is not a wine product, meaning like a pour spout or a corkscrew, something like that. No, that's product. Wine product is going to be something like a tasting fee by the glass, something like that. Also, for all of you WineDirect fulfillment users, if you're going to be doing any bundles, they actually prefer that you create a wine product to do that because then the product flows across to their fulfillment better. So just kind of keep that in mind. Talk with your fulfillment account rep about that when you want to do any kind of bundles or sets or G sets or anything like that. So keep that in mind. And then products are quite literally that product. Okay, so we're going to see that product and wine product have much fewer fields than wine does. Well, that makes sense because this is pertinent to that particular wine. And then again, wine product. This is definitely tasting fees. Tasting fees, tasting fees, tasting fees. And like I said again, any of those, and they buy the glass as well. So keep that in mind. Now, a product bundle set, and I just want to make this, tell you kind of about this briefly. A product bundle set is okay. We've asked many, many times for them to make a wine bundle set. And the reason is this. This is a product bundle set. And this is the point of saying a wine product versus a regular product, in that the wine and the wine product are going to get taxed at the wine rate versus the product and the product bundle are going to get taxed at a product rate. Okay, so those can be different from state to state, or they can be really close. That's all well and fine, but here's the other thing. Products are, well, they're non-wine. So products can be sent to every single state. There's no real resistance on that. Versus wine is going to be watched internally with compliance to keep you from sending this to a state that you're not compliant in. And that goes based under the state profile section under store. So it's really important that wine is just wine, and wine product is also anything that needs to be taxed at the wine rate. Again, tasting fees, glass of wine, etc. And then you have products which are non-wine, and then the product bundle set, here's kind of the culmination of this, is that 99.9% of you will be using the product bundle set to put wine in. Well, here's the problem with that. The problem with that is that it can be sent to every state because the system thinks it's a product, like a hat, an apron, a corkscrew. It doesn't think that there's wine in this because it's product bundle, not wine bundle. And so with that, there's other things that we would have to do with overriding compliance to make sure that we don't send this off to the states that can't go there. So there's a different way of doing that, which you get into the advanced section about. But the main thing here is with the product bundle is to make sure that you know that this can be sent to every state. It is going to be charged at a product bundle or a product rate, not a wine rate. And so that causes a little confusion and issues when we're trying to send to Florida or some other state that doesn't tax on wine, and therefore all of a sudden it's got a tax on this product because it's a product. So things like that, keep in mind. And these are things that you need to kind of work through to see what the workarounds are for items like that. Okay. So back to putting a wine in, and the last thing here about product type is everything else in here can be changed, but as soon as you pick a product type and you hit save, that's locked. That is going to be locked to the database. So if you goof, you're either going to delete this, inactivate it, either way, it doesn't matter, but you're going to have to start over. Okay, so keep that in mind. You won't be able to change the product type after you've picked one and hit save. Okay, so just keep that in mind. All right, product name. Let's call this, what are we in, 2020? So let's call it a 2017 Cabernet Sauvignon. And I'm going to use this for reference of what not to do later as well. So let's do Beckstoffer. I'm going to spell it wrong on purpose for trademarking. And then let's call it Dr. Crane. And I'm spelling it wrong on purpose. All right. So the product name can be as long as you want it, and that's fine. But the point I want to make here is also something that we talk about in the POS class, is the fact that the POS title can only handle 14 characters. So the product name you're good with. The POS title, though, you're going to get about here. And then this is no more is going to get displayed. So it's really important that with your POS title, you keep it short, sweet, simple. I go over this in my POS. I also talk about the Tai Chi of the POS. and the flow of what we want to do. And so in this case, I would do something along the lines of this. 17, Dr. Crane. Or you could do CS, Dr. Crane. But the point here is to, one, keep this very short, keep it with the vintage first. Then if you need to do varietal, you can, or to do the specificity of that. So anything special, it comes from Bacigalupi, it comes from any of the Beck softwares, whatever it is. I wouldn't put Beck in here. There's really no point because this isn't for the customer. This is for your staff, and they already know what it is. So keep it short, sweet, and simple. And again, I'll talk about that more in the POS class. So with 17 DK, and you should know what that is. And then you keep it separated because it's a little easier for the brain to figure that out. And I'll talk about more of that in a second. Now, the subtitle is literally just a title that's only going to be seen on the web, and this is going to be under the name. And so this is going to show up on the web right underneath this. And that's the only place. So whether or not you want to put it on there or not is a different story. You could just do 2017 cab, and then you can put the rest of it under here if you wanted. It's up to you. Now, the shipping strategy, use default by default, or you can use a different strategy. The default should always pretty much be your 750s. So can't really think of any other reason you would have something different. Now, the important thing, though, is that if you do have large format wines, you will need to create another strategy so that you can choose that for those particular wines, because a Magnum or a 3-liter is not going to go in the same box as your 750s. It needs to go in its own box, which means it has to have its own strategy so it can charge specifically for itself. So keep that in mind. Really important that shipping strategy and bottle size go hand in hand. So if I needed to, let's go ahead. I don't have any Magnums, so let's do bottle size of Magnum. Or we could put 1.5 liter, something like that in there. That's redundant to do both, so I'm just going to do Magnum because I know what that is. And then the bottle size in milliliters. So you have 700 in 750, you have 1,500, you have 3,000, 6,000, etc. And then, so that we're good there. Save those changes, and if I needed to, I could do a Magnum. In this case, it's a 750, but if I did a Magnum, I would need to choose the Magnum shipping strategy so that anytime that was added to an order, then it would charge specifically, and you would have multiple shipping charges that would get added together. Choosing the file, of course, if we do that, it's going to pull it from the system, and notice the 350 by 450. I think this got changed though. So this looks like the old sizing. I think the new size is 350 by 350. When you look in the new section, you'll see that it's a little bit different. Now, the product SKU. What is important here, and some people do numbers and all this stuff, and it's totally up to you how you want to do this, but ideally, I still recommend something along the lines of keeping it just like the POS title, but without any spacing. And the reason for this is that you also want to know what you're dealing with on the back end. You want to be able to look at stuff, and if it's a bunch of numbers, well then how do you know what that is? And then you got to kind of look it up, and it's just kind of annoying. But it's whatever works for you. I've seen all different kinds. Accountants are usually ones that kind of drive what this the SKU nomenclature is, but I would always recommend doing something like this because it's scalable, and that's what's really important. This is scalable, this is scalable. So these are kind of tied together for the long haul. And again, have your conversations between everybody, what works for you. But it's also really important to, if nothing else, make sure that the POS title is really short and sweet with your abbreviations. All right, and then we get into product brand. Again, if we don't have one, we can add one there. Unit description is more along the lines of bottle, case, 6-pack. If you wanted to, it's really not required. It's pretty much up to you. Weight does become required, usually. So there's usually a little red asterisk there saying that it's required. Retail price. If you're going to put a retail price in, don't put a sale price in. Sometimes I see people do this, and I don't know why. They do this. Why would you do that? You have a retail price of this and a sale price of this. The sale price is going to trigger over the retail price. So now you're going off the sale price, not the retail price, but they're the same price. Don't do that. But keep this in mind. If I make the sale price different than the retail price, because it's an actual sale price, your club members will get their discount on top of the sale price, not off the retail price. So keep that in mind. That's really important. Some people just do this and then think it's going to happen for everybody. But no, the club members actually get their discount off of this price. So be careful when you're using the sale prices, okay? Now, bottles and case, this is where I can say 12. And what this will do is that this is going to, on the web, we'll go ahead and add a button for a case, so it could 12 or 6, it'll calculate that out for you. So you'll have the add to cart button for the individual, but then you'll have a case add to cart button. So that can be very useful, especially if you have less expensive wines that get sold by the 6 and 12 pack a lot. That's a great thing to have so the customer can just go, cool, I don't have to type in 12. Alcohol generally required as well. I see a lot of 14.5s these days in Napa. Other areas are a little bit different, creeping up to 15 plus there, getting into some party wine. All right, and then again, having the region, appellation, all this stuff populated prior to be important so that this will go on the wine spec page, which is part of the description when we get to that part. So you're going to see that I can get all the major, this is why I like the older version, is because I can get all this major information done ahead of time very quickly, all in one area versus the newer version. I have to kind of go through a couple pages. And so I just find this a lot easier. I can make it active, and do I want it on the web? Now, once I hit save, so again, as with most things, general information, I have to hit save before I can't see anything else below this. There are no other sections until I hit save. Now, what I want to show you really quickly, though, before I go any further, is if I scroll down, I'll get to all this in a second, is that every time you create a product in an event, a blog, a one-click offer, etc., you're going to get the marketing URL. And when you click on this, it's going to take you to that landing page. And that's all well and fine. That I'm going to have the landing page with all my basic information. Here's the wine specs. So if I have other specs on here, it'll open up and show me all those details if I've populated those. But what's important is, and this happens all the time, which is why I want to tell you, is that you are only going to be able to see this page if this is yes. So if I click here and I uncheck display on web, and I come back down here to this page, it's going to give me a 404, okay? So it's not being displayed on the page, so the URL isn't working. So it's really important that if I have display on web up, then it'll show me. If I don't have display on web, so if you're having 404 errors, besides double checking the URL, make sure that it's displayed on web is yes. Otherwise, you'll get the 404, okay? So basically, that's a toggle for whether or not this is active or can be seen on the web or be found, really. All right. Then we're going to get to the teaser. This is my teaser. You can put this in. You'll notice that you're going to have this WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get tool. And if you needed to, you can click the source and put in some coding here, as you'll have every time you see this tool. The teaser is a shorter area. So I wouldn't put a ton in here, as it's going to really fill up your web page really quickly. So the point is to put your description, so the bulk of your information can go in the description, which is going to be once you click on a product, you're going to see all that information versus when you go to the front page and you go to the wines, and then I can see teaser, rosé teaser. So my teaser would be here. This is your teaser, depending on how long it is. But try and keep it so it's not too long, okay? Here's subtitle. So I could say that this is a Cab Franc, and then I can say where it's from here if I wanted. And then to see the description, then I click on it, and then the description's here, and then all the wine specs, which are not only the varietal appellation, but another section we'll see under properties. All right, so that's the description. Now, the next really important part is categories. So this is saying, where do I want this product to show up? Where do I want the customers to see this? Where do I want the staff to see this? And so I could put this under wines and red. Might be a little redundant, but it really is just kind of depending on, how you want to break up or how these want to be found. So I could put these on these web pages. If I'm using product groups, I can put it under there as well. And then based on the POS, what of the POS pages or categories do I want this shown under? And again, this is something to talk about in the POS, especially when we talk about the Tai Chi, is that you only put this on one page. You could possibly put it on a second for, say, maybe club wines if you want to keep them all together, or new releases. I get that, but there's a whole concept there that I'm happy to expound on. And you don't have to, but it's going to really clutter up your pages if you have the same wine on multiple pages, okay? So just kind of keep that in mind. And then go ahead and hit save, and then these are going to show up in those areas. And of course, if I have display on web off, even if I have it on the website, this isn't going to show up. When you click on it, you're going to get a 404. So kind of keep that in mind as well, just for cleanup. All right, now once we have this all set up, we can go into manage properties. Not too much in here that most people do. However, you do have the drill down properties or additional wine specs, if you will, which will show up here. And then one of the major areas, though, is departments. So departments is where I can't say enough about adding, wine, food, merchandise, whatever. It's just great to have. The action message is, let's put an action message in. And we're going to go ahead and save that. So then I can go to my store and I can pull up the Cab Franc, and you can see action message goes here. Okay, so it would go under the teaser. You'd have all that and then the action message. So keep that in mind. You keep in mind also that you can clutter this up really quickly if you're going to be putting in all these different messages. It's going to be hard for the customer to read. So just kind of keep it short and bullet pointed. Okay. Badges, this is where you want a designer to go ahead and put those in. These are basically what's going to happen is those little badges that you see, those little awards that people put on their wines, that's where they go. So you'd have to populate that in a different section, and then you can pull those through. You could put these in. Nobody uses these anymore. It's pretty much all in the drill down or the specs. This is actually the override state profile. So if I click this and hit save, then what I'm going to need to do is click properties again, or anywhere, but just click properties again, and you're going to see manage compliance pops open. This is what I was talking about for the product set or product bundle, is that for at least one of the products in the product bundle, you will have to go in and tell it which states you can ship to, so then that product bundle will only be shipped to those states. In any other state that you're trying to ship that to, it'll give you an error. So that's a nice little workaround there. All right. And then we can also get into advanced. Now, advanced is actually a cool little section, and again, most people don't use. Start date, end date for this product, and then sale to public start date and sale to public end date for this product. And what this means is that the start date and end date is when the actual product is going to show up on the page. Okay, so it might not be there one day, then 10 a.m. on a Friday, like, Ticketmaster does and whatnot, the product pops up. But the sale to public start date is when the actual add to cart pops up. So at first this will pop up, but there won't be any add to cart. So you can say coming soon, action message. Or subtitle, coming soon, and then in the teaser, log in at 10 a.m. on whatever day and be the first to purchase this limited edition, blah, 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 whatever. And then once you can put this in, so you can say, today at 10 a.m., and you can also have a pre-sale message as well. So you can have an additional message there prior to this being put up. And then that way, as soon as this time hits, then the add to cart button pops up and now they can buy it. So it's a great little tool, and because you can put this up here, it'll do all the work for you. It puts it up there, it puts the button up there, and then it takes it all down based on your criteria here, okay? And then if you are using allocations like we mentioned before, then you would have to click this, is allocated, and a message if you're using that tool. If you're not using that tool, don't even worry about that, okay? All right, the next one, and probably the area you're going to go into the most next to the general, is manage SKUs. There's a lot going on in here, so make sure you understand everything that's going on. So every time we go in here, we're going to click edit for this main product. Really, all this stuff up here, you really don't have to touch. I wouldn't even touch it. There's really no reason unless you're doing like t-shirts or something like that, and then you have multiple SKUs in this edit section. You would have multiple SKUs, and then there's a whole different buttons that pop up for a couple things you can do. But for the main point, we're just going to go into edit, and what we're going to see is pretty much everything a below price level, whether or not the product uses inventory, and then it'll show the pools or the various pools that you have, and then how much you have in said pools. Or if you don't use this and you have this unchecked, the system just thinks you have an infinite supply of that product. So if you're managing the inventory somewhere else, that's fine. Just keep in mind that the system's going to keep selling it because it just thinks that you have an infinite supply. Now, the other area that's really important is advanced. I love this section because there's so much you can do in here. There's a lot of power in this little space. So what am I talking about? Minimum per order, maximum per order. So I can say 3 and let's say 6. So this means that in order to, like if I wanted to put this product into the cart, it would give me a message saying if I tried to put 1 in, that I have to take at least 3, and then it'll up it to 3. So there has to be at least 3 in the order, but you can't get any more than 6 in that order. So especially if you had a limited item. And so then the system, if you try to put 7 in, would give you an error. No, that's not going to happen. So that's really nice. What I also like is in multiples of. So this is great for if we're doing futures. So what we can do is we're going to do a 3-pack. Now this really works best if this one SKU is going to be a 3-pack up until the time it gets released and it becomes sold individually after that. Now, if we always want to do a 3-pack, then we would make 1 SKU for 3 packs and 1 SKU to be sold individually or in any multiple. That gets a little confusing later on, not only for customers, but maybe for you on the back end, if we're also talking about trying to see, because you're going to have to add in the sale of the 3-pack plus the single, and then add those in to get that proper number. So ideally, if you can, do a multiple of 3 or 6 or whatever it is, and then later on, all we have to do is delete that, and now we can sell it by the onesie, you know, once it gets released or whatever. But this is, I love this, the multiples of, and then you can even enforce it even further with a minimum order of 3, although it's going to do the same thing, so it's kind of redundant. So you might want to say minimum of 3 or multiples of 3, but the max order of 6, which means I can only buy 2 3-packs. So little things like that. It's great. Love this feature. Cost of goods, which, why are y'all not using this? If you're pulling the reports and you, I get clients that are like, oh, I need to pull a cost of goods report. Okay. I pull a cost of goods report and most of the cost of goods are 0. All right. Well, as long as you can still pull the cost of goods report, and then just as long as you have the cost of goods somewhere else, you can still extrapolate based on what was sold, but then you don't need a cost of goods report. You just need a sales report, and then extrapolate with the pricing in your own Excel sheet. So I don't know. It gets used. It doesn't get used. It kind of baffles me sometimes. So maybe somebody has some ideas on why or why not. But cost of goods, put it in there. Don't put it in there. It's up to you. Shipping SKU, really not used. It's going to be the main SKU, so I would really just leave that blank. Now, these 3 are really important. Okay, no shipping charge, is non-taxable, and then no promos applicable on the product. So, no shipping charge. This should be on anything that is not shipping. tasting fees, gift cards, event tickets, anything like that. Something that just doesn't get a shipping charge, or something that's really, really light that doesn't need to get a shipping charge, like a pamphlet, an insert, or something along those lines, is non-taxable. This is great if you're going to do your tasting fees, event tickets, gift cards, and then you're going to back out the tax later on the back end. So some people will put the retail as $21.19 or whatever, and then it comes out to whatever the total is, but $23, $22, whatever it is. But if it's, and then because it's taxable, it goes up to that amount. It looks a little funny on the receipt, and sometimes the customers really, in this industry, not in any others, $35.99 still catches people that they think it's only $30. No, round up, it's 36. It's only a penny away. But if you give that whole number in this industry, for whatever reason, people like whole numbers. Same thing with your shipping amounts. Just do whole numbers. It's just easier, and everybody can calculate in their head faster. So just FYI, a little tidbit there for you. You don't have to, just a thought. And then is non-taxable. So again, if you're going to back out the taxes. And then the other thing is no promos applicable on the product. Now we can do this two different ways. What this is saying is that this product will not allow any promos to apply to it, like a library wine. So yes, I know you're a club member, but sorry, you don't get a discount on this product. So you can easily say that this isn't going to be applied to any of those promotions, regardless of what they are. The other way to do this is under promotions themselves, you can exclude products. So either way, it works out really well. And again, the case in point is kind of like library wines. But you might also want to do this on event tickets. No promos applicable because it's a $100 a ticket, and you want it to stay that amount, and the customer doesn't get a discount on it. So especially if you're discounting it already, whatever you want to do. So just kind of keep that in mind. And these are really, really good to use. Just, I can't say it enough. And just make sure you're using these on a regular basis because they really do help. Custom tax rate, not many people use this, and it doesn't really help. It's really a one-off, once in a blue moon kind of thing to put this in here. Also, what you don't want to do is put a 0, thinking that, oh, it's 0. No, in this case, the custom rate will be 0. And I've had people do that too. Like, why is this, it doesn't charge tax. Why isn't this charging tax? Make sure the custom tax rate isn't 0. Just make sure it's blank. Just like cost of goods. Just make sure it's blank unless you put something in there. If you put 0 in there, it will populate 0. So just kind of keep that in mind. And then if we are using loyalty points, which I had mentioned in another video, then go ahead and click this. And then that means that you are saying that this product is available to be redeemed or does have loyalty points can be applied to the subtotal with this product in the cart. So kind of keep that in mind, that the products that you want the loyalty points to work with have to be assigned, if you will. This has to be checked. Otherwise, the loyalty points aren't going to apply to orders. Okay? Kind of keep that in mind. All right. And then real quickly, just going through some of the others that are used a lot less. Managing the photos. You can add a bunch of photos in here and then kind of use them. Some of them can be used on the web, or multiples can. It gets a little really cluttered if you do that. I've seen people do it, and then you get a bunch of pictures. You've got the one picture, but then you have a bunch of little ones down here, and it's, I mean, that works for like, when you're buying, products like on Amazon, and you've got the little products on the side, and you can look through those different views. Are people doing that with wine? Really, it's just your front label that needs to tell all that, and then the rest of the information goes here. So completely up to you if you wanted to show different bottle shots. But sometimes it just doesn't come out right, so just keep that in mind. Managing your media, so we can go ahead and add some more information in here, plus a caption. Again, works okay, doesn't always work as intended, or not as much as you might think, so kind of play around with it if you want to use this. But again, just not use that much. And most people these days are using various templates, but they're doing it through WordPress or any of the other website providers or creators. And all the designers do these days is put in some of the remote widgets. So really a lot of this stuff doesn't do anything to those websites anyways. Same thing with managed related products. This is like customers that bought this also bought such and such. You can put that on certain pages as well. Then you have the reviews, as we can see at the bottom of, all right, well, let's just go into a product, and then you can see the reviews are down here. Also, if you're getting that spam of all those unwanted websites in your reviews, you can go ahead and in the back end, there's a way to turn reCAPTCHA on so you don't get that all the time. So keep that in mind. Manage security. This is actually a great little section. We'll click edit and we're going to click on product security. And normally, don't display unless logged in. Well, that's all kind of good. But if that means that somebody has to log in to see it, and what most people want is to display the product and show like Wine Club exclusive. If I can spell. Wine Club exclusive, or sold out, or coming soon, or whatever you want. And then what you can do is you can limit the people that are going to be able to get the add to cart button. You can limit it to, say, club members. So what would happen is we would go to the wines, and what you would see is you would see all this, but you wouldn't see the add to cart button. So maybe your message is log in to purchase, so that they log in, the button pops up, oh, now I can buy it. And that's all because the security here is saying that only these people can buy it. You could do that by contact types as well, especially if you were, trying to market to all your non-club members or canceled members or something like that. You could have a contact type of those people that you're going to, and only they get to see it or get to purchase it. So little things like that to cause exclusivity. And then also, if you don't check anything, then this is when you would have something like sold out. And then what this will show is it'll show the product, it'll show this sign, but nobody will be able to buy it regardless if they log in or not. So kind of keep that in mind. Great little tool there. And then we can go into manage tasks. So this is, and we're talking about in another video, we can add a task, and it's all about this product. So deactivate on a certain date, add this, don't forget to do this, whatever it is, you can assign it to yourself or somebody else, and then send them an email notification, or just let the system do it via email on the date that you put a due date in there. So kind of keep that in mind. Used somewhat often, but not all the time. And then, as I said, manage compliance. This is dictated by under manage properties. So if I take that off and I hit save and we refresh, it goes away. Okay. All right. Well, those are the basics around products, putting that through. Hope that gave you some good detail into the basics of putting that together, why we're using certain sections and not others. And so it's always my focus to not only tell you the best practices, but all the pitfalls and cliffs that I don't want you falling off of. And because I've seen other people do things, and I've done things, and I've known people that have done things that just make a lot more work for them, and I don't want that to happen to you. So definitely work on this, play with it. If you need to, you can always get rid of the SKUs. And if you need additional help, you know where to find me. Take care.